Welcome, welcome, everybody. I am so excited for the information that we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to be talking about menopause. Um, I'll talk a little bit about my experience with menopause, and we'll start from there. In my 40s, I started having night sweats. I started having hot flashes. Um, I already was a person that didn't sleep good, and this just made it worse. So with me already not sleeping good, and then feeling like I was on edge, it was exhausting. Every day was exhausting. My body hurt. Um, because of how I was raised Amish. We always look for a natural solution. So I started going to a naturopath, and we went through a lot of different things. We did progesterone. I came home with this like handful of supplements and vitamins and minerals, and she had diagnosed me as being very depleted in many of those things. And I'm sure I probably was with, the more I learned about aging. I did that for probably about a year and a half. I ended up even getting prescription pain pills for how severe my cramps were, and just like trying to find something that would just help me get some sleep. Everything that had been easy became really hard for me. And I was desperate to feel like myself. Like I just didn't feel like myself anymore. Um, I decided to go ahead and go to my family doctor. I went to my family doctor, and I started a prescription from him. And it was not too long into that I think, I'm not sure if it was a reaction to that or what, but I just felt like there really was no hope. Like I had exhausted everything at that point after about 2 years. And then I remembered things that I would heard my aunt say, things I heard my mom say. Oh, getting old just it sucks. It's hard. That's just how it is. You get old. And I remember hearing the word menopause as if it was like, I hated even hearing the word because it sounded sad, and it sounded bad and painful. And people would talk about like just trying to exist through it. And so there was kind of this mindset that I remember hearing. Oh, that's just how it is when you're getting older. Angie, can you share the slide? As I started going into researching what is actually going on in my body, um, I I just did a deep dive into hormones and what happens during menopause, um, and I found this. I just made a little slide here of all of the different functions of our hormones. I won't get into all of that, but I think that what you can see on that chart is that every hormone the production of those hormones began to diminish around age 40. There's such a drop in just all of it, whether it's something that is stabilizes our mood or helps us sleep, whatever the case may be. And I was so desperate for an answer. I just thought, okay, well, it must be true what everybody told me. This is what it feels like to get older. Thankfully, that was not where the story ended. I connected with Angie. Angie has been a friend of mine for around 14 years, and Angie shared with me the information that she'll share with you tonight. It was a very different way of thinking, uh, but it was an answer for me. And now at 54, I feel better than I did at 34. So, having said that, I just want to encourage everyone to uh, take in this information and know that there is hope. We can feel like ourselves, even better than ourselves, actually, because now I sleep. And so, Angie is a mom of five young men and now a grandma of two boys. And Angie has been in this field for almost a decade, teaching people and helping them to transform their health. So, Angie, go ahead. I am super excited for what you're going to share tonight. All right. Are you there, Angie? Oh,
I
I think
am now. Sorry. Did everyone drop? Am I the only one who dropped?
no, I think so. Yeah.
Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you now. Yep.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay. Were you, where are you at? Are you handing it over to me?
I
Are you still
you.
talking?
No, I'm handing it over to you. Sorry about that.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to give me a sign if I freeze up, because I'll just switch to my phone if my computer isn't picking up our house's Wi-Fi enough. It's just funky. I apologize to everybody. The unpredictable happens sometimes when we can plan everything to a T, and then we can have Wi-Fi issues. So I appreciate your patience, but Barb, give me a little like sign if I'm
Yep.
frozen
All
or you
right.
can't see me or if I'm patchy. Okay. So Barb is amazing, and I want to introduce Barb because she would jump right in and didn't tell you who she was. But
That,
this is my friend Barb Yoder, and she is a mother of 4 adult children and one beautiful granddaughter. And she has been a nutrigenomics educator for about 8 years. I think we're right around the 8 years. And we've seen just an amazing transformation in her health and in her life, in her wellness journey. And clearly, a lot of it had to do with menopause and menopausal symptoms and kind of that whole mindset of it's hard to get old and menopause is a struggle. And we're going to kind of talk to you about defying that. My name is Angie Huntley, and I'm an executive consultant with LifeVantage, and I'll tell you a little bit about who LifeVantage is. But all in all, I'm a nutrigenomics educator because LifeVantage has pioneered a science called nutrigenomics, and they specialize in it now. They're on the forefront, and there's a lot of companies that want to follow, and even pharmaceutical companies that want to follow. But because we're really the pioneer of it, it's one of those things where we're so far ahead that I don't know. I don't know if anybody can catch up. So what I can do is share with you what we have. And LifeVantage is a biotech company, and nutrigenomics really is the study of nutrition's effects and ability to affect our genes and our genome. And so at the very core, so often when people are saying, I wish I could get to the root of what this is, actually affecting your genes and helping your genes come into balance and to align with how you were created and to balance in a way that your body was created to be balanced. And I intentionally use that word balance because I think when we enter into menopause, we expect unbalanced, don't we? We just kind of accept it that things are imbalanced and it's just going to kind of hurt and it's going to kind of ache and it's going to be maybe miserable. I really hear a lot of people talking about misery during perimenopause and menopause. And so that is not my experience. I've been activated. We use this word activated because it's nutrigenomic activation. And I'll explain it a little bit in a moment what that means. But I've been utilizing nutrigenomics in the way that we use the word activated. I've been activated for 8.5 years, almost. It'll be 9 years this summer. So I'm really squeaking in on 9 years. And when I found nutrigenomics, I wasn't thinking about myself. I was in my early 40s. My life was very overextended professionally and as a mother. I'm a mother of 5 young men, and I'm now a grandmother of 2. But at the time, I needed a breakthrough for my 10-year-old son. And I was desperate. And nutrigenomics entered my life. And I just looked at some of the things I'm going to share with you today, but we're going to be a little more focused on menopause. But I just wanted an answer for my son. And in so doing, in finding something for my son to utilize and so a tool in our toolbox that could make such a difference for our son and then another son, I utilized it for myself as I thought the responsible mother should. I just thought, why would I have my kids try something that I'm not willing to try? And so I did with zero expectation. And honestly, back then in my early 40s, I'm 52 now. I'll be 53 this year. I thought that I felt normal, which is comical to me now. Because as my body started to balance and I noticed different things kind of falling away and my body releasing from some of the pains and things that I thought were just normal, I've realized, wow, that really wasn't normal. Because when my body got into a healing mode, and the balance that it brought, I started to be alleviated from some of those things. So one of those things was hot flashes. And I was just starting in my early 40s to have uncomfortable hot flashes and pretty, extreme discomfort. I was just getting to the point where I thought, I wonder if I could find something for this. I wonder if there's a supplement, or I wonder if there's something that could help me. I wasn't super motivated because my mom had horrendous hot flashes. So I just kind of thought, uh-oh, here it comes. And as I continued on in my activating journey, I noticed several things fall off, and one of them was hot flashes. Somewhere in there in the first few months, I wasn't really paying attention to myself. My focus was on my kids, and their health. But at some point I looked back and I'm like, wow, I don't have hot flashes anymore. And I think it was probably as a result of people complaining about their hot flashes. And so I started talking to Barb and different people, clients that I had, and they were experiencing similar things, similar menopausal and hormonal related things that were just starting to level. So through the years as well, like I said, I've been utilizing Nutrigenomics for 9 years, and I have noticed different things as I've added different nutrigenomic products that address different symptoms. I've just noticed better things that usually people are going backwards at my age. Like I was noticing better sleep, and I was noticing less aches in my body. And usually as we added a new product that addressed a new system, we kind of feel an increase in mental clarity or in energy. And again, all of those things that are kind of backwards when people are going through menopause. And interestingly, Gal, several years ago, my youngest kids are twins, they're identical twins, and we're in Michigan, and Michigan State University keeps my twins on this twin registry. And it's basically, they do a lot of different twin studies. So they'll reach out from time to time and ask if my twins are eligible for this study or that study. And at one point they were questioning, because they'll pay you to be in the study. So I'm always listening, like, sure, let's see, what do we have to do? And I was talking with them, and because my twins both have an autoimmune disease, they were disqualified from the study. And I said, nope, that's okay. And then the lady said, but how old are you? Because we're going to do a study on perimenopausal and postmenopausal women. Are you between 40 and 55? Are you still having your cycle? And I said, yeah, I can do that. And so I agreed to be part of this study, which was a lot of work. Actually, I had to spit in a little vial every day for, I can't even remember, 90 days, and had all these stipulations. And what was incredible, and the reason I share this with you is, it was a blind study, but everything that they were asking me had to do with perimenopausal symptoms and those hormonal imbalances. So the questions were wild. I mean, like, do I have psychotic episodes? And is my depression unbearable? And am I so unhappy with my weight gain? And do I have hair loss? And do I have extreme pain? And all my answers would just be no, 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 no. I'm just like constantly answering no, or I'd have to rate it. And finally they said, we're going to need to know what you're doing. And I told him, I told him about Nutrigenomics, and I told him I could send him the studies. And it was that, it was that polar opposite of everyone else's experience in the study, that those conducting the study had to look at me. Now, granted, at that time, I did that study probably a year ago. So I was, I don't know, 6.5, 7 years into activation. but it kind of goes to show my process through perimenopause. And again, my mom had extreme symptoms. So genetically, which is kind of what we do, genetically, I should be predisposed to not have a really good time. And the world's only added more chemicals and more exposures that should amplify the imbalance for us, right? So then recently, I just want to add this too, like, probably in the last couple years, my cycles have gotten very irregular, which is a sign of perimenopause. So that's happened, you know, and for those of you who are of that age or have been through it, you know, like sometimes you'll have 2 cycles a month, sometimes you won't have a period for 3 months, and it's just all over. It's wild and hooky. And about the time that my cycles got irregular, a couple things started happening for me, even though I was very activated. And so now we're going to get some TMI, but if you're on this call, that's what the nature of this call. It's like, I'm just going to say everything. I got the worst BO, like cat pee. It smelled like cat pee. And part of me was thinking, I eat whole food vegan, which means I have a lot of onions and a lot of garlic. And so I thought, wow, maybe I'm just really detoxing from all of my nutrigenomic activators. But it was bad. I couldn't stand myself. And I also started having pain, which I had never had. I started having pain in my cycle. And I could feel like the day before my cycle, my body would hurt so bad. And I wasn't quite sure whether it was menopausal. I used to be a dancer, and I have a lot of old injuries in my back and my tailbone, my SI joint. So I've struggled a lot with that pain. And I thought, wow, that's really amplified when my period's going to start. And we released a new product that I'll talk about too. I'm just starting with my story, and then I'll like back it up with what it is. But into our most recent product release, I was about 4 or 5 weeks into it, and the BO went away. Like, just disappeared. No more cat pee smell. And it's pretty tested now because I'm 20 weeks in. So 16 more weeks happening after about that 4-week mark where that odor is just gone, which showed me that it really must have been hormonal, because our most recent product launch really has a lot to do with hormones and hormone balance. And the other is I don't have pain when my cycle starts. And I've had and even most recently, I've had 2 very close cycles, and they were surprised to me. That hasn't happened in a while. For those of you who get pain, like if you get that early pain, and I like to keep really active. So sometimes I would almost think like, wow, my body's sore. I rock climb a lot. So my body's so sore from rock climbing. Then I would think maybe it's my cycle, and then my cycle would start. And now my period's catching me by surprise because I just feel great, and I don't have the pain, and I'm sleeping great. And so I can see this beautiful leveling that continues to happen as I add a different dimension to activation. So I want to explain to you a little bit of what activation is. When I'm talking about nutrigenomics, we're talking about nutrition's effects on the genes, but what we're doing is we're actually turning on genetic pathways that have gone dormant, that are sleeping. And so like I could blame, if I was having a bad perimenopausal experience, it'd be really easy for me to blame my genetics, because that's what I saw with the women in my family. However, 80% of our DNA is dormant, and only 20% of our DNA is active and moving. So while we're blaming our DNA for a lot of things, there's a lot of it that's really not doing anything, and it's also very influenceable. And that's really the premise of what we do, is we look at those genetic pathways, and we look for ones that are responsible for exponential healing, repair, regulation, or balance. And your genes are incredibly able to do that. And we'll unpack that a little more. But in the same way that, like, my cell phone right now has a lot of functions that it's not showing, you can see some functions. You could see the time if there wasn't a glare. You could see my husband's picture, the date. You could see, my provider and how much battery I have. But there's so many things in here that will never, ever come to action unless I know how to turn it on. And so, similar to like the flashlight, I could go my whole life of having a cell phone and never utilizing the flashlight and not even knowing it had a flashlight unless someone told me what switch to flip. And then all of a sudden it does what it was created to do. It's programmed, it's there, but we have to tap into it. And what we do at LifeVantage is we use nutritional formulations. It's kind of like supplements, but instead of supplementing where there's lack, these nutritional formulations actually flip a switch in your DNA to say, okay, pathways that we know have amazing ability to heal and regulate, we're going to turn you on, but we're going to do so with formulations that are made up of things that your body is made to absorb. Food components, plant components, nutritional components. And so that's activation. When we say, we're activated, and when we talk, I'm going to talk to you about some of our key activators that not only influence your overall health and menopause, but have enormous capacity to get your body in balance, and even beyond what we can sum up today. And the focus of our company is really to look at what will bring healing to the entire body. And it's a wild concept, right? We as Americans are pretty programmed to be really diagnoses focused, and we're really into disease management. And even this call, we're really focused on menopause. And so it's so easy to say what works for menopause. What do I take for menopause? What do I take for hot flashes? What do I take for headaches or for sleeplessness or for weight gain? We get really dialed in that way. And our company was founded really on a breakthrough from our first nutrigenomic activator that was founded on the premise that no matter what is going on in your body, if it's unwellness, whether it's aging, just literally the aging process and the vulnerability that brings, and or a disease process or an unwellness process, no matter what it is, they're all rooted in the same dysfunctions within the cell. And they all can be traced back to some of those genetic pathways that either get overexpressed, underexpressed, or are just entirely off. It's kind of like if you can picture a tabletop, and if the tabletop represents aging and it represents menopause, hot flashes, weight gain, metabolic dysfunction. But it also represents the other stuff, guys. It also represents maybe cancer and Alzheimer's and some of the little things like acne or eczema or chronic fatigue. If the tabletop can represent all of those things, which it does, what we focus on at LifeVantage are the legs. And instead of trying to make the tabletop look real shiny and great and manage it so that it keeps its same properties, there was a team of scientists 60 years ago that said, what if we just knocked a leg out from under this tabletop? Can it even have the same properties anymore if we eliminate a dysfunction? If we take away the strength of that dysfunction in the cell to hold up this disease process or to hold up the aging process, then how would that change the symptoms of the aging process or of the disease? I know that's a lot of information. I hope you're kind of tracking with me. And what we've done in the last 15 years as a company is we've looked at the different legs, the different dysfunctions within the cells and how they support aging and disease as we know it. And we look to get them out of the way. And so it's kind of like everything we have as far as activation has a sense where it really does target everything, because we can't come up with something that ails us that isn't rooted in those dysfunctions that we target. So 60 years ago, this team of scientists had a breakthrough at the University of Colorado in Denver. It got the world's attention. It wasn't a company. It was a team of scientists. I'm going to just make sure everybody's muted. It was simply a team of scientists with a heartbeat to eliminate that dysfunction, to get people's body healing and to get well. And I'm going to show you just a 2-minute clip of an ABC primetime investigative report that aired 20 years ago. And it's still really relevant today. And that's on our very first product. Because what happened was we had a study done on humans at the University of Colorado in Denver that had 100% efficacy. Be skeptical. I know that sounds crazy. I want you to be skeptical during this time because there's so many bad things out there that will say things like this that can't hold up. I can tell you to be skeptical for us because we can hold up to your skepticism. 100% efficacy doesn't normally happen in a human study. And oxidative stress, which is one of those dysfunctions that supports all disease and aging, was lowered more than any other food, drug, or supplement ever has and ever will, actually, at least as far as we know it, as far as history and where we are today. It lowered oxidative stress 40% in 30 days, 70% in 90 days in every single person in the study. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what that entails. I'm just going to show you 2 minutes and then we'll move on and kind of break it down from there. But if you haven't seen this in its entirety, I highly recommend that you have whoever invited you to this, share that with you. Is it going to let me? 1 second. I have to move something around because all of a sudden my screen shifted. There we go.
Related. Normally, oxidative stress, measured by those T-bars, increases with age. But in Dr. McCord's tests, taking just 1 pill of Protandim a day reversed that trend for everyone at every age, even for an 80-year-old.
They all are reduced to the level of oxidative stress that one would expect, frankly, in a newborn or a very young child.
Back to the oxidative stress levels of a child? It sounds too good to be true. Will Protandim work on me? But what about my progress? After nearly 2 weeks now, it's time to get my results. Dr. McCord calculates the numbers. The result? My level of oxidative stress has declined dramatically.
45%. That's excellent.
Just look at where I fall on the graph, before and after.
Which, if extrapolated back, is the level you would see in a newborn baby.
Have we turned back the clock? Well, maybe not on the outside, but deep inside within my cells. Yes, indeed. Would you suggest I keep taking this supplement?
I would.
And so, ancient Eastern healing and modern Western medicine may soon be working together. High oxidative stress is associated with more than aging. It's been linked to hundreds of illnesses.
It's at the very center of many diseases: liver disease, diabetes, emphysema, asthma. I've studied all of these: strokes, heart attacks, even mental disease. Yes,
Depression?
Alzheimer's disease, depression. But we do know that oxidative stress is part of those disease processes. But I don't want to wait until I'm 80 years old and find out that I should have taken it.
So that gives you a bit of an idea of the power of what we have and where we started, is literally turning back the clock. And as far as this call is concerned and our focus on menopause and perimenopause, it's very, very common when people start activating. I and like Barb and many of us who've been doing this for a while will have clients who regain their cycle after their cycle has stopped. Like, that kind of shows you how it's balancing and slowing down that extreme aging process. Now, that's a good thing. As long as you can keep having your cycle, your body's going to be and remain more balanced. And with every activator that we've introduced, intriguingly enough, one of my colleagues, every time she would start one of our new activators that was released, she'd start her cycle again. And then she would go through the loss of it and then we'd release a new activator and she would start her cycle again. And so I just share that with you so you can kind of wrap your mind around the power of, sorry, I've got to manage this screen that keeps flipping on me, the power of activation and what it can do in your body to balance. So see if I can get my PowerPoint to respond. There we go. So essentially, we are allowing our body to do more for us than something that we externally try to supplement and influence. And yet, while we're taking an activator, because really our products look like supplements, they are nutritional formulations. And a lot of people will say, what does that look like? Are we talking pills or drinks or powders or capsules? Yes, all that. Whatever it takes to target that specific pathway. And however the formulation needs to be intact to keep the potency and power to activate the specific pathway that we need. So we take those, but then that's to activate what your body can do. And that's what's really exciting as we share what your body can do. So what we were just looking at that ABC Primetime Investigative Report is Protandim NRF2. And it's taking this formulation of herbs. It's just 5 herbs. It's a plant-based formula, and it activates that NRF2 pathways that literally increases your ability to lower oxidative stress to the trillionth degree, because you have 50 trillion cells and 37 to 50 trillion, and every single cell is ridding itself of oxidative stress at such an extreme rate. If I had 66 tablespoons of turmeric every second of every day for the rest of my life, I wouldn't be able to keep up with what my body can do to eliminate oxidative stress from this synergized formulation. It's very, very powerful. So let's tie it together now. Let's talk about the connection to menopause. So there's a National Institute of Health, National Library of Medicine that we all have access to. It's called PubMed.gov. You're welcome to go to PubMed.gov. And one of the ways I research what our products do is I will look at what our products do. First of all, we lower oxidative stress more than any food, drug, or supplement. And I'll share with you too how I can say that and how we know that. But I want to see how that affects menopause. So I typed in and I searched menopause and oxidative stress. There are 1,142 published articles that speak on the connection of oxidative stress supporting the menopausal dysfunctions. Now, I'm a studier. You don't all have to study this much, but this information is meaty. It's so good. So I looked into the abstracts of one of the studies just to say, what are we looking at here? I'm not going to get into 1,412 studies in my time to prepare for this, but I grabbed a couple. And if we look at the abstracts, like the conclusion of the study, and I wanted to look at the role of oxidative stress in menopause, again, knowing that Protandim NRF2 lowers oxidative stress at a rate nothing can compare to. We saw that reporters' oxidative stress levels lower to the level of a newborn's within 2 weeks. That's your body's NRF2 pathway doing the work because we're turning it on. And so if you look at the highlighted area, it says specifically this paper will explain how oxidative stress in the form of free radical buildup is what oxidative stress is, and antioxidant deficiencies has been directly linked to the decline of estrogen during reproductive aging. Oh, maybe that's why Barb's symptoms started to go away. Oh, maybe that's why my hot flashes disappeared when I first started years ago. Now, a couple of the things that NRF2 does, your NRF2 pathway. So when it's turned on powerfully with our NRF2 activator, and you don't have to remember all this, but I just want to show you some of the validation of how powerful it is and why we see what we see. When your NRF2 pathway is activated, the way we activate, your body increases its production of a super antioxidant called glutathione by 300% in 90 days. So by the time you're on this for 90 days, you are manufacturing glutathione, which, by the way, people are paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for infusions of glutathione that wear off. But I'm producing glutathione like my body was built to do it. So I searched on PubMed.gov, menopause and glutathione, 347 studies showing the benefits of glutathione in menopausal women. Well, of course we're seeing great results. Another super antioxidant that your body increases production in with our activators in NRF2, and then also in one I'm going to speak about in a couple minutes, is superoxide dismutase. There are 288 studies showing the benefits of superoxide dismutase when you're menopausal or perimenopausal. And I did the same with another super antioxidant that your body is going to produce and totally get into high gear producing called catalase, 164 studies. So if you're a researcher, you can dig in and find countless published elements of validation for why we're seeing what we're seeing. On just the high level, we're seeing people, alleviate their symptoms and kind of stride through menopause in the way that I was, and they had to document in the study that I was in. And these are just examples of different lives that are affected in different ways, because again, we are knocking out a leg of the table when the tabletop is what ails us. And it doesn't matter what it is. If it's even something that you think we're supposed to experience, all the things that I was experiencing in my early 40s when I started were all things that I had really wrapped my mind around as part of the aging process, or what it felt like to be alive. I was bloated. I was always crampy. I had extreme IBS, and I was sore and achy. It hurt to get off of the floor. And I was having hot flashes, and all of those just seemed to be released as my body started healing and balancing. Now, after that ABC primetime report aired, 9 million people wanted this product, and institutions and universities from all over the world wanted to study it themselves, because again, remember I said you should be skeptical. Well, here's some of the universities and institutions that were skeptical, and they were willing to put millions down to study our product. And they're amazing. I mean, the American Heart Association and Ohio State University teamed up and did the only study that the American Heart Association has ever funded on a natural proprietary blend health product. And they did it on our Protandim NRF2. And it's mind-boggling, the cardiovascular benefits that are shown in their study. We didn't do the study. American Heart Association did the study. The National Institute of Aging has endorsed Protandim NRF2 as the only proprietary natural product proven to extend lifespan. Harvard University, Louisiana State University, Washington State University, in their conclusion, has said NRF2 may well likely be the most preventative, and think preventative, and therapeutic breakthrough in the history of medicine. And I thought that was melodramatic when I first started. When I read that, I thought, oh, please, in the history of medicine, come on. But the wonderful things that I have been able to see through the years, and even in my family members, I believe it. We see really, really amazing things. And when people get a hold of activation and get their bodies working for them, we tend to see people defy the odds. And so I love it when people will grab a hold. Now, defying the menopausal odds is huge. I will tell you, in my circle outside of my LifeVantage colleagues or my clients, I don't know people who are just breezing through menopause. All I do is hear people complaining about the agony that they're in. So beyond NRF2, our product line continued to develop, and we continued to address different legs on the table. And today, due to perimenopause and postmenopausal, I want to talk about our internal ones. And we have a NRF1 activator that activates your body's ability to increase your mitochondria by 70%. So I looked up on PubMed.gov menopause and mitochondrial dysfunction, because there's nothing else that will eliminate mitochondrial dysfunction to the degree that your own NRF1 pathway will, when we utilize our NRF1 activator. And studies upon studies upon studies. We have an NAD activator that activates NAD within your body It increases your production of sirtuins by 100% in 24 hours. It's extremely powerful. Again, I looked at PubMed.gov, so many studies validating NADs and sirtuins benefit on menopause. Now, I'm going to kind of skip through and get this high level because there's several things I want to cover that are really, really powerful. 2 years ago, we released an activated collagen, which turns on the body's ability to manufacture your own collagen, increasing your collagen density by 100% within 8 weeks. It also activates the pathway that protects your collagen from loss. And collagen's a really, really big deal. Now, when you combine NRF2 and our collagen, we see even a higher level of gene expression that doesn't appear in each one separately. It's very, very powerful, and it starts to balance and regulate these two together, 3,000 survival genes. And so I really want to hone in on that. There's a lot of skin issues as we're aging and with perimenopause, and we see that. But the beauty with our collagen is collagen's the most predominant protein in every cell, in your brain cells and your heart cells and every connective tissue. And so we start to see not only these wonderful external results, but also internally, we start to see this wonderful regeneration. But one thing that we see in menopause is a higher stress level. As women are going through menopause and perimenopausal symptoms, the lack of sleep, the hot flashes, their bodies become more stressed. And the more that we're stressed, we release more cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. And cortisol, too much cortisol, causes weight gain and an increase in visceral fat, and it can become problematic. Well, when you combine these two together and they balance out those 3,000 survival genes, they actually de-stress the cells, not oxidative stress, but actual stress that your cells hold. They de-stress the cells by 992%. How important is that when we see the effect that stress has on our heart, when we see the effects that stress has on our sleep, when we see the effects that stress has in our metabolic health and maybe our inability to lose weight? And what a wonderful advantage we have when we can level that and actually take away that stress so that we don't have that overproduction of the stress hormone cortisol. So you'll see when your collagen density is increased by 100% in 8 weeks, it kind of looks like this. This is pretty amazing. I mean, I have estheticians and cosmetologists look at that and think, oh my word, like that's better than Botox. And I agree. But I want you to imagine what that's doing on the inside. I want you to imagine what that's doing in your reproductive organs. Now, NRF2 and NRF1 and NAD have been proven to protect every single organ. So I want you to think about your reproductive organs too, because they're really essential in this whole menopausal journey that we're in. So I did a search on menopause and collagen. 1,912 studies talking about the effects that increased collagen can have on your menopause experience. And it makes you think about the health of your organs. Well, like, look at this. So even look at my friend, Dr. Nancy's legs here on the bottom. Sometimes as we're aging, we think maybe our insides, like, are our insides looking like that? We kind of feel like our organs are experiencing that same level of aging that we see on the outside. But what happens with our activated collagen and our NRF2 is you see this transformation internally as well, not to mention the balancing of all of those genetic pathways that are responsible for an enormous amount. We're talking 3,000 different pathways, an enormous amount of regulating disease process. We have an NRF2 activator that targets the brain, the nervous system, the neurological system. It's like a neurological cleanse. It activates mental clarity. How many of you are nervous about brain fog or just feel brain fog from this time in our life? Well, it literally powers your brain, supports positive mood. I mean, all the different things that when I was taking those questionnaires for the study, they were asking all these. Do you have brain fog? Do you feel less energy? Are you having mood swings? And I have to say no, no, and no. But we can see such an extreme difference when you give this to a child. This was an 8-year-old child, and you can see just 2 weeks with the combination of Protandim and Axio. This is a little flavored powdered drink, by the way. I just mix it in my water. But you could mix it in whatever you want. You could mix it in yogurt, you could mix it in tea and applesauce. But this is the difference in our ability to focus. And even though that's an 8-year-old spelling words, I think when we're 48, we can look at that and say, I could use that. I could use that focus. So I want to talk to you a little bit about our metabolism and visceral fat. One thing that happens as our estrogen lowers is that we tend to have slower metabolism. And as our metabolism slows down, then we can't consume as many calories a day. And when we do, instead of having subcutaneous fat, which is the fat just beneath the layer of our skin, we have this culprit called visceral fat. And our ability to even burn calories while we're resting, which we should be doing, starts to lower as well. So we have an activator called fat burn that specifically targets visceral fat. And it activates your body's ability to increase your resting calorie count so that like per day, it's kind of the equivalent of walking 4,000 more steps. It's the equivalent of 181 more calories per day, but it's specifically targeting that dangerous visceral fat. And I kind of skipped over how dangerous visceral fat is, but visceral fat is the fat that surrounds your organ and gets in your blood. It's the fatty liver fat. It's the heart disease fat. It's the fat you don't want. And we see an increase of it during menopause for that reason that I just mentioned. So if we look a little bit at weight loss, and I want you to know, like, as I kind of glance over all these, like our collagen and our fat burn, and now even when we're going to talk about our activated GLP-1, it's really easy to look at our products and think, oh, that's a cosmetic product. And I want you to think leg of the table. I want you to think deeper. I want you to think balance. Weight loss is part of the table, or weight gain is part of that tabletop. It's a symptom that we don't want. But what we do at LifeVantage is we go deep within and we target what's at the root, and we activate the pathways that are responsible for balancing and regulating the body in ways deeper than we can expand here today. So in October, we released a GLP-1 activator. And I want you to know that your GLP-1 is an essential hormone in your gut-brain axis. It's not the name of a pharmaceutical. GLP-1 has to work in concert with several other hormones within your gut-brain axis. It's made in the L cells in your gut and a little bit in the brain as well. And that GLP-1 hormone, along with the other hormones that all need to play nice together, they all need to come into balance. And the GLP-1 is more of the buzz hormone because pharma has really marketed it well. Everyone's saying GLP-1 and not necessarily realizing that they're talking about an essential hormone that they're probably very depleted in. And that there's other hormones that are overexpressed in that gut-brain axis that are kind of doing a number on their GLP-1. So what we do is we have this 2-part system that activates the pathways in our body that are responsible for your GLP-1 manufacture and regulation, increases your GLP-1 production by 140%, brings it into balance, and also gets the other hormones behaving so that the GLP-1 can thrive and do what it was created to do. So some of the things that happen in menopause is a lot of times we see the weight gain and the insulin resistance, where when we have a healthy and balanced GLP-1, we see blood sugars regulated. We see cardiovascular protection, we see neuroprotection, and it's derived in the gut. So the gut has to become healthy for this production to happen. And we see a healthier liver, healthier kidneys, your circulation increase, and we start to see an incredible balance in overall health. And a result of that is weight loss or increased metabolic health. Now, it affects so many things in the body that sometimes your body, not sometimes, your body always has a hierarchy of what is most important. And as it's starting to regulate and balance, there may be other things that are a little more important and critical than the weight loss. But as you get balanced, the weight loss happens. So I want to show you just a little bit more on this. I, of course, looked up menopause and GLP-1. There's 61 studies supporting the results that we see when women in menopause have a healthy GLP-1. And then also DPP-4 is the naughty hormone that, of course, we downregulate, and we bring that DPP-4 down into balance because it kind of wreaks havoc. And that's the imbalance that we see. Low GLP-1, high DPP-4. DPP-4 is bad, GLP-1 is good. And so we just start to do this and we get it where it needs to be. But so much validation there. What's beautiful is when people are activating GLP-1 production through our mind-body product, we don't see people lose muscle. In our studies, 100% of people who lost weight didn't lose any muscle. And we see that, remember that visceral fat? We see a lowering of 27% of visceral fat. We see new relationships with foods, changes in craving. People are craving foods that fuel them versus comfort them, or foods that are rewarding them, and all the different reasons why sometimes we have a dysfunctional relationship with food. Average weight loss is 9 pounds in 8 weeks, and usually about 1 to 2 pounds per week. And it's an average. Sometimes you plateau a little bit as your body's balancing. Sometimes there's fluctuation, but we tend to see long-term. Again, all of our products are longevity products. The longer you're on it, the more in balance you become because your body's adapting. And some of us are more deficient than others. So some of us just take more time, but you can see there's wonderful cosmetic results. But again, when we combine our NRF2 and our mind body, we see really amazing things, kind of like the combination of the NRF2 and collagen. And these really, we don't have time to deep dive into each of these results, but the deep dive is fun. I'll tell you, if we ever have like a 3-hour symposium, I'll really dig in and share with you guys some of the pathways that I found that are just mind-boggling. But what we see when people combine Protandim NRF2 and our mind body is we see 4 more pathways lower oxidative stress, even beyond what NRF2 can do on its own. Now, NRF2's combination with collagen does that as well. It increases the production of some of those super antioxidants that I was talking about earlier. So again, our products tend to synergize with each other, make each other stronger. Huge to think of 4 new pathways to lower oxidative stress. Now, here's a really good one. We see 9 new metabolic pathways activated. They're fat and fatty acid pathways that are just leveling your metabolism. I mean, how amazing is that? There's an advantage in taking the 2 together. And then this is what really gets me. I want you to think about all of your organs, not just your heart and your brain, but your uterus. I want you to think of every organ within your body that has to work together in symphony. And with these 2 combined, we see 22 new genes activated that are responsible for the restoration, the rebuilding, and the renewing of your internal organs. Now, this is a really big deal, and it's why we see some of the regeneration, and that's why we see people kind of defying the odds. I can't tell you how many clients I've had that have added the mind body, and even in the past before mind body has come into play, but I would say it's accentuated now. I'm getting new messages from people that all of a sudden aren't having their hot flashes anymore, and they're not having the headaches, and their families are telling them that their moods are different, and they're not having the anxiety and the depression and some of the different symptoms and kind of like misery components to what they thought their menopausal experience was. So that's a very, very high level on all of our activators, and hopefully sets at least a foundation at why we see some of the beautiful things we see, and why I'll be 53 this year and I feel better than I ever have. I don't feel at all that I'm a victim of perimenopause. I feel like I've taken control and I'm defying the odds of what our culture dictates that it has to be. And what I will do is I'm going to stop recording so people can ask questions, and kind of feel free to know that we're not going to post your questions, but we'll have the recording in case anyone wants access to this. And while I'm still recording, I just want to tell everyone, thanks for tuning in and thanks for joining us. And we're excited that now at least you have this knowledge of a tool that you can have in your tool belt or share with someone you love.